The Robinsons were discovered in the summer of 1978. An aerial geological survey in the very upper reaches of the Abakan River discovered iron ore deposits. For their exploration, they were preparing to land. A group of geologists and selected a landing site from the air. The work was painstaking. The pilots have flown over the deep canyon many times, wondering which of the pebble spits is suitable for landing. On one of the runs on the side of the mountain, the pilot saw something that clearly looked like a vegetable garden. We decided at first what it seemed. What kind of vegetable garden, if the area is known as uninhabited white spot in the full sense? To the nearest settlement down the river 250 kilometers, and still a vegetable garden. Rows of furrows darkened across the slope. Most likely potatoes. And a clearing in the dark massif of larch and cedar wood could not appear on its own. Cutting down. And long. Standing. Descending as much as possible over the mountaintops, the pilot saw something like housing near the garden. Another circle was laid. Housing. There is also a path to the stream. And the blocks of chopped logs are dried. There were no people, however, to be seen. Riddle. On the map of pilots in such deserted places, any residential point, even a hunter's winter quarters empty in summer, must be marked. And here is a vegetable garden. The pilots put a cross on the map, and, continuing to search for a landing site, they finally found it by the river, 15 kilometers from the mysterious place. When the geologists were informed about the results of the exploration, they paid special attention to the mysterious find. There were 4 geologists who started work at the Volkovskaya ore deposit. 3 men and 1 woman. Galina Pisminskaya, who led the group. Left alone with the taiga, they didn't lose sight of the fact that there was a mysterious vegetable garden somewhere nearby. In the taiga, it is safer to meet a beast than a stranger. And, in order not to be lost in conjectures, the geologists decided to immediately clarify the situation. And here it is most appropriate to cite a record of the story of Galina Pisminskaya herself. Choosing a fine day, we put some presents for our possible friends in our backpack, but just in case I checked the pistol that was hanging on my side. The place marked by the pilots lay at about a kilometer mark up the mountainside. Rising, we suddenly went out onto the path. The sight of her, even to an inexperienced eye, could tell the path has been used for many years, and someone's feet have walked along it quite recently. In one place there was a small stick leaning against a tree by the path. Then we saw 2 storage sheds. In these buildings, standing on high pillars, they found birch bark boxes with dry potatoes cut into slices. For some reason this find calmed us down, and we already confidently walked along the path. The old man did not answer immediately. He stomped, looked around, touched the strap on the wall with his hand, and finally we heard a quiet, indecisive voice. "Well, come in, if you came." The old man opened the door, and we found ourselves in a musty, sticky darkness. Again there was a painful silence, which suddenly broke through with sobs and lamentations. And only then did we see the silhouettes of 2 women. One fought in hysterics and prayed, "This is for our sins, for our sins." The other, holding on to the pillar that supported the sagging mat, slowly sank to the floor. The light from the window fell on her widened, mortally frightened eyes, and we realized we must go outside as soon as possible. The old man followed us. And, also quite embarrassed, said that these were his 2 daughters. Letting our new acquaintances come to their senses, we laid out a fire on the sidelines and took out some food. About half an hour later, from under the canopy of the hut, 3 figures approached the fire. A grandfather and his 2 daughters. There were no more signs of hysteria, fear and open curiosity on their faces. Those who came up decisively refused the treats with canned food, tea and bread. "We can't do that." On the stone hearth near the hut, they put a pot with potatoes washed in the stream, covered the dishes with stone tiles and waited. To the question, "Have they ever eaten bread?" the old man said, "I ate something. And they are not. Didn't even see it." Daughters were dressed the same as the old man, in homespun hemp sacking. The cut of all the clothes was also baggy, holes for the head, a belt rope. And all solid patches. The conversation didn't go well at first. And not only because of embarrassment. We could hardly understand the speech of our daughters. There were many old words in it, the meaning of which had to be guessed. The manner of speaking was also very peculiar. A dull recitative with a pronunciation in the nose. When the sisters talked to each other, their voices sounded like slow, muffled cooing. In the evening, the acquaintance had advanced quite far, And we already knew, the old man's name was Karp, and the daughters were Natalia and Agafya. Surname: Lykovs. The youngest, Agafya, during the conversation, suddenly declared with obvious pride that she could read. After asking permission from her father, Agafya slipped into the dwelling and returned with a heavy, smoked book. Opening her on her knees, she chanted, just as she spoke, recited a prayer. Then, wanting to show that Natalia could read too, put the book on her lap. And after that they were all considerably silent. It was felt that the gifts we brought, a piece of linen, threads, needles, fishing hooks, were accepted here with gratitude. The sisters, looking at each other, stroked their hands, looked at the light. With this the first meeting ended. The parting was almost amicable. And we felt they will be waiting for us in the forest hut now. One can understand the curiosity of four young people who unexpectedly met a fragment of almost fossil life. On every fine free day, they hurried to the taiga hiding place. It seemed that we all already knew about the fate of the taiga recluses, who aroused curiosity, surprise and pity at the same time, when it suddenly turned out that we didn't know everyone in the family yet. On the fourth or fifth visit, the geologists did not find the owner in the hut. The sisters answered evasively to their questions, "He will come soon." The old man came, but not alone. He appeared on the path accompanied by two men. In the hands of the road. The clothes are still the same. Patched sackcloth. Barefoot. Bearded. They were no longer young, although it was difficult to judge about their age. They both watched with curiosity and worry. Undoubtedly, they already knew from the old man about the visits of people to the cache. They were already prepared for the meeting. Yet one could not resist the sight of the one that aroused their curiosity the most. The one walking first turned to the other with an exclamation, "Dmitri, girl." The girl is standing. The old man appealed to his companions and presented as his sons. "This is the elder, Savi. And this is Dmitri, was born here." At this performance, the brothers stood with their eyes down, leaning on the road. It turned out that they lived in a family for some reason separately. 6 kilometers away, near the river, stood their hut with a vegetable garden and a cellar. It was the male branch of the settlement. Both taiga huts were connected by a trail, along which they walked here and there almost every day. Geologists also began to walk along the trail. Galina Pismanskaya, the friendliness was sincere, mutual. Yet we had no hope that the hermits would agree to visit our base camp, located 15 kilometers down the river. Painfully often we heard the phrase, "We cannot do this." And what was our surprise when one day a whole detachment appeared at the tents. The old man himself is at the head, followed by the kids. Dmitri, Natalia, Agafya, Savin. An old man in a high hat made of musk deer camas, his sons. In hoods made of sackcloth. All 5 are dressed in sackcloth. Barefoot. In the hands of the road. On the shoulder straps are sacks of potatoes and pine nuts brought to our hotel. The conversation was general and lively. And they ate apart. The helicopter, flying away, made 2 circles over the mountain with a vegetable garden. 5 barefoot people stood by the heap of dug-up potatoes, their heads up. They did not wave their hands, did not move. Only 1 out of 5 fell to his knees. Prayed. In the world, the story of geologists about the find in the taiga, of course, has caused a lot of talk, gossip, and assumptions. What kind of people? Old timers of the Abakan River confidently said, "These are Kurzaks." Old believers, this has happened before. But there was a rumor that a White Guard lieutenant withdrew to the taiga in the 1920s, who allegedly killed his older brother and hid with his wife. They also talked about the 30s. There was everything here. Nikolai Ustinovich Zhuravlev, partly because of his service, partly because of his local history passion for everything unusual, decided to get to the taiga corner. And he succeeded. With a guide, hunter and a police sergeant from the regional center Tashti, he got to the taiga garden and found there the picture already described. 5 people still lived in 2 huts, convinced that this is how true Christians should live. Those who came were greeted with caution. Nevertheless, we managed to find out this is a family of old believers. The family retired to the taiga in the 30s. The old man L+Ekov Karp was 83 years old, the eldest son Savin was 50. The Lykovs also occasionally go to the village. They walk, as before, barefoot, but some of the gift has appeared in their clothes. The grandfather liked the felt hat with small brim, the daughters wear dark shawls. Savin and Dmitry changed their homespun trousers to ones made of tent fabric. Nikolai Ustinovich's story was interesting, but raised many questions to which the narrator did not have complete answers. The path of the Lykov family to the extreme point of distance from people was not entirely clear. It was interesting to see the traces of the split, about which so much was written in due time, using the example of specific lives. But more important for me than questions of religion was the question, how did you live? How could people survive, not in the tropics near bananas, but in the Siberian taiga with waste, deep snow and frost for dirty food, clothing, household equipment, fire, light in the home, maintaining a vegetable garden, fighting diseases, counting time? How was all this carried out and obtained? What effort and skill did it require? Was it attracted to people? And what is the view of the world around the younger Lykov, for whom the taiga was a maternity hospital? And what relationship were they with their father and mother, with each other? What did they know about the taiga and its inhabitants? As they imagined the worldly life, they knew, somewhere there is this life. They could have known about her at least from the flying planes. An important thing, there are gender issues, the instinct to continue life. How could a mother and father